I don't know. Isn't it kind of an understanding in America? You do me well, I owe you a solid. That's like a given, right? I take you to the airport. You're buying the next dinner. I help you move. I get a little something back. Like, that's the American way. LeBron James has carried the NBA for 20 years. He didn't have a long playoff run this year. Did you see the NBA ratings? As every other sport, WNBA, Copa, Euros, college football, up. NBA ratings, tank. No LeBron. He carried the Lakers, not a well-run franchise, for 6 years, got him a title. Number one brand in the league. Carried the Cavs for 11 years. They've never mattered except when he played there. Got him a title. You owe me dinner if I help you move. If I carry your sport, get you a new TV contract worth $7 billion. You got a problem with Bronny James getting drafted by the Lakers? It's the weakest NBA draft in maybe ever. In fact, what's funny is the Milwaukee Bucks, 30 picks earlier, drafted a kid out of Australia that played 8 minutes a game in Australia and averaged less than Bronny. It shows how polarizing LeBron James is. I had more people ask me about that on the East Coast. And my takeaway is, you're really bothered by it? Let me ask you this. Let's say you've done well in your life and you have a favorite steakhouse in your small, middle-size, or big town. And you go to that steakhouse or the pasta joint and you buy a lot of wine for years. You spend a lot of money at that steakhouse. You know what I mean? You've taken a lot of business dinners at that steakhouse. You didn't have to. You chose to. Don't you, after a few years, feel like you get a little better pour on that Pinot? Maybe get you a better table? Damn straight you do. And so do I. We all have expectations. We seek favors. We all get a little entitled if we give you something. LeBron James has carried the league for 20 years. He and Steph Curry have carried the league. Neither made a playoff run this year. Ratings went to the tank as everything else is. The Copa and the Euros are going through the roof. NBA with a lot of good players. Global sport, tanked. No LeBron, no Steph. Yeah, I'm okay in the weakest draft ever. The Lakers going, we'll do you solid. In the 5 previous years, before LeBron got to the Lakers, I could be wrong on this. I think they had the worst record in the league. They were a circus. They were leaking everywhere. He won him a title. Got him to another Western Conference Finals. In the weakest draft ever, his son, who, by the way, I think his son's a G Leaguer. I think at best he's a low-end rotational player. But this draft was horrible. After the 36th or 37th pick, you can argue it's a G League draft. I'm not losing sleep over it. And nor should you. Here was LeBron on the selection.
Obviously, it's a dream come true for me. Just see my son to be able to, be in the NBA alone. I mean, it's always been a dream of his. And for us to be side by side, it's a lot of words of loss, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, the kid has worked so hard to get back to this point. There's just so much has happened over the last year with him. To have this happen less than a year from his incident, to be with our friends and our family when they announced his name, it was something that was super surreal.
By the way, how many sons who aren't qualified or at minimum aren't the best candidate end up on their father's staffs in the NFL or college? Nobody gets too worked up over that. There's other far more qualified candidates. I think it's something about America that's understood, and I'm okay with it. You do me a solid, I got dinner. You help me move. Maybe I'm going through a tough time emotionally, and you're there for me. I owe you. I mean, how many owners take over for their parents that actually live up to expectations? Not many. We'll start with that. Don't get worked up over it. It's the world we live in. Inspect your own life, put a microscope on it, and if you really thought about the things you expect after you help others at a favorite restaurant, we all do it. It's okay. It's not worth losing 15 minutes of sleep over. All right, we got all sorts of stuff. Klay Thompson, that got very touchy-feely. 4 coaches in the entire sport. If any other coach had a bad season, they're in big trouble. Kyle Shanahan has a losing record without Christian McCaffrey. That roster goes 7-10. You don't think there's heat on Kyle Shanahan? What about John Harbaugh? They wanted to run him out of town 3 years ago. You think they finished 3rd or 4th in that division? There's not heat? The rookie coaches. You get off to a bad start by Thanksgiving. We got the wrong guy. You can even make the criticism in sports personal. Pete Carroll, though he has the energy of a 17-year-old after a bag of Skittles. You know, he is in his 70s. That's an adult conversation. Not a lot of coaches got into their 70s and were at their best. Bill Belichick, 6 rings, even named a boat after it. He feels a bit like a dinosaur. You can have those conversations. Brian Daboll not only got Daniel Jones to the playoffs, he won a game with Daniel Jones. He won a game. He goes 6-11, he probably gets fired. And I think he's a great coach. That's what's great about sports. That's not the downside. 5 of the last 8 NBA coaches of the year got fired from the team they won the award. Expectations, adult conversations. Win now, you're paid a lot. Yet in the Democratic Party, it's considered ageist, harsh, mean to have discussions about Joe Biden's age, his mental acuity. I don't know. It feels like the president's a fairly important job. I read that people were caught off guard by his regression. You don't have iPhones? Grow up. Have a real conversation. People were having conversations and questioning it 4 years ago. But in politics, I'm uncomfortable. Not in sports. Not in sports. Dak Prescott. You make Patrick Mahomes money. Win more when it counts. I love Lamar Jackson. Another stinker in the playoffs. Time for real heat. Sean McDermott keeps winning his division. I'm sorry, Josh Allen's too good not to end up in Super Bowls. Those aren't the downsides to it. It's why I defended vigorously the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark discussions. The girls could handle it. The women were fine. It was all the fragile sports media asking weird, dorky questions and being uncomfortable with it. The women were great. Caitlin's going to be fine. Angel Reese is crushing it. And you should push back on fragile sports media if they're outraged by things that are happening to everybody. I enjoy politics every 4 years, but the reason I love sports is accountability and adult conversations and debate at home, on a show, in a bar, real people talking about real things. Pressurized situations. Don't let sports become politics. Again, 5 of the last 8 NBA head coaches. Gonzo. We want more. Dak Prescott. Yes, you win 12 games a year, just none when it matters. So that's my takeaway. 17 days off. Sports has some politics in it. Let's never let it become politics. I like what it is now. And sometimes it's harsh and tough and almost mean and a little rude, and we debate, sometimes over a beer, and it's what I love about sports and what drives me crazy about politics. I'm sorry. For the last 4 years, I don't watch a lot of TikTok, but I either have singing goats or Joe Biden gaffes. It's okay to talk about it, really. The democracy thing, it's kind of important. The other thing that was notable to me, and I don't know why it gets people worked up, but man, I must have had a half dozen people ask me about this. They were talking about it coast to coast on sports radio. Colin, what do you make of Bronny